Hi. I wanted to talk about the latest shooting in the U.S. in Nashville, Tennessee, where three kids by the age of 9 has died, along with three adults. Um, I wanted to talk about thoughts and prayers. Actually, I do not want to talk about thoughts and prayers because they're useless and futile. I wanted to share my thoughts on what would what I think is really missing from of how this madness of the slaughter of children and adults um, through mass shootings can be brought to an end. Um, there's a few things to take into consideration. One is that the shooter in this instance, like some of the previous shootings, uh, had 7 guns purchased legally, including 2 automatic weapons, assault rifle type weapons, and 1 handgun, like weapons which can fire multiple rounds at a time. Now, the Washington Post has today shared a very confronting article around what damage does an AR-15 rifle does to the body. I would strongly recommend reading the article in the link uh, in this post. Now, but I'm reading some excerpts from the article that the AR-15 fires a bullet at such a high velocity, often in a barrage of 30 or even 100 bullets in rapid succession, that it can eviscerate multiple people in seconds. A single bullet lands um, with such a shock wave, which is intense enough to blow apart a skull and demolish vital organs. The impact is even more acute on the compact body of a small child. This is the damage that an AR-15 can wreak on the body um, of an adult, or worse, in a child. Um, Now, there were, as a part of this article, the Washington Post has some fairly has shown highlighted 2 cases from Parkland and Newtown. These are previous mass shootings. Noah Posner, who was of age 6, and Peter Wang, who was age 15, and how the AR-15 eviscerated their bodies. The bullets from the AR-15 type rifles eviscerated their bodies. Now, uh, one of the things that that happens is that the crime scene photos are considered too gruesome to publish and often kept confidential. Uh, News accounts only rely on antiseptic description from law enforcement officials and medical examiners who, in some cases, say that the remains are so unrecognizable that they would have to be identified through DNA samples. Now, herein lies a big problem. I mean, you have one part of the population, like the GOP in Congress, who will blame everything but guns for the problems that America has with mass shootings. It's mental health, it's the trans people, it is um, just anything else under the uh, sky that can be blamed except for guns as to why this shooting is a good example. One senator from Tennessee has said that nothing could be done. If criminals want to kill people, they will kill people. Tennessee, incidentally, is a state which has recently, it doesn't have any gun laws. You can buy a weapon in AR-15 weapon in Tennessee in half an hour if you're over 21, and they keep loosening their gun laws to the point that there is almost no laws, basically, or around open carry and things like that in Tennessee. So this is from Tennessee. That's one of the senators, and there's another senator who posted a photo last Christmas with his entire family with posing with guns, and that he said after this shooting today that that is his right to have such a photo, and once again, guns are not the problem. So it is the what remains of the bodies of those of those who are hit by the bullets, the kids, the adults. Um, if the if actually what happens to the bodies was shown on television or on social media, it would be very gruesome. You have to take the permission of the um, parents and families, obviously, for any such sort of images coming being published in the public domain. But that's what is needed to confront those who refuse to do anything, um, to pass any sensible gun laws, because because that part is sanitized. You never hear on MSNBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, on any of the channels, they talk about what those eviscerated bodies look like. There is no image of that. It's all sanitized. Like, so this guy, Joseph Sakran, in the Washington Post article, a gunshot survivor. He advocates for gun violence prevention, and he's a trauma surgeon at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. He says that we often sanitize what is happening, and that I feel is a big problem. Sanitization to our senses. We don't want to be offended by the vision of the mangled remains of kids while the number of kids dying continues to increase. So, at what stage do we put that in front of those who refuse to do anything uh, um, about gun control, sensible gun control, to ban assault weapons and say that this is what you reap, this is the result of your criminal inaction? There is also another aspect which I feel is not happening in the current debate. So currently, you see in Israel that there is massive street protests against Netanyahu, the prime minister, the right-wing prime minister, because of his attempts to change the judiciary um, in a way which would make politicians control the judiciary. Now, during the 1920s, Mahatma Gandhi started the non-cooperation movement against the British. It was the non-cooperation movement was the start of peaceful protests where he told his followers and Indians in general that they do not cooperate with in certain work processes. Do not cooperate with the British uh, to in an attempt to gain freedom from British colonialism. And this non-cooperation movement later evolved into massive non-violent protests where literally thousands and hundreds of thousands would line up, and the British police would come and beat down the first line of uh, non-violent protesters, and they would be taken away by other protesters, and the next line would get up and be beaten up by the British police again, but not a single hand was raised against the police. Uh, the British police was incidentally Indian police under British officers' control during that time. So the question is, if you look at the gun debate, where is such protests? Where is hundreds of thousands going into the street every day to say that we need change, that without change we are not budging? Where is the blockade of Congress? I mean, hundreds of thousands of people coming to Washington each day and sitting in front of Congress and saying, we are not moving till you do something about this. That's the two thing that is moving, that is missing from this continuing carnage and slaughter of children and adults through mass shootings, that we want to present a almost involuntarily a sanitized view of this, of what's the impact on the bodies of those who, through no fault of their own, have been on the receiving end of these weapons of death. And then how do you take into account that there is this ghoulish party who, despite majority of the country wanting sensible gun control, will absolutely do nothing? So what's the counterforce to that, effective counterforce in terms of non-violent, peaceful protest by hundreds and thousands to achieve what is needed in terms of uh, sensible gun control? Um, if these two things do not happen, uh, this carnage will continue and will get worse. Sooner or later, you will have these killers will take advantage of not only the unrestricted access to gun, but will start planning um, amongst themselves to go out and slaughter more by banding together, two or three of them, and that's going to happen. And then there'll be more lamentation, there'll be more thoughts and prayers, and nothing will happen. So these are two things that I think needs to happen to have any prospect of implementing gun control measures beyond lamentations and anguish that we are doing nothing. Thank you.